Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. Today we have a special treat. We have my good friend Olivia, and I'm going to have her tell us just a little bit about herself because she's kind of a new instructor, and we're going to be having a lot of fun today. So I'm going to let her tell you what we're doing, and then at the end, we're going to have a vote. So Olivia, take it away.
All right. Hi. Like you said, my name is Olivia. My business is Olivia Rose. You can see it on my apron. My business is 8 years old, and I started doing wedding cakes exclusively about 2 years ago. So that's all I really do. I live in Colorado. Been here at least 10 years, and I have 4 kids. My oldest is 12. He just turned 12, and he's going to be helping me today, running the stopwatch for us as we go through each method of icing. He'll be timing it to kind of see how long each one takes me. Sure, everyone's a little bit different, but I was just thought about doing this, and I was curious to see how long it actually takes me to do each way. I definitely have a preference on the method that I ice my cakes, but this will be fun to kind of go through each one, see how long it takes us, and we'll compare them, kind of see the final outcome, what they look like, and you guys can pick your favorite. So
that's awesome. All right. Do you want me to highlight the other camera now?
Sure. Yeah. We can.
Okay. Replace spotlight. Okay. So now we can see your workstation perfectly.
Good. I made a batch of Swiss meringue buttercream today. This is my buttercream of choice. I'm just going to stick with white today. I flavored it with a little bit of salt and a little vanilla. So the first method that we are going to start with is the upside down method. And the reason why I decided to start with this method is because it needs a little bit of extra chill time in the refrigerator. And so I thought if we started with that, you'll have time to chill while we're doing the other ones. So in order to do this method, I start with, so I use this is my turntable. I know there's a lot of different turntables out there. There's fancy ones. This one is from IKEA. It's a Lazy Susan from IKEA. And I like it because it's short. Sometimes when you get tall cakes, you're working like way up here. I don't know. I feel like it could get a little uncomfortable working so high. But I kind of prefer the low turntables. And then you're going to need a cake drum or some kind of work surface to put your cake on, and then a piece of wax paper. So when we do our upside down method, this is going to be the top of our cake. And how I start is I take some buttercream and I'm just going to dollop it down onto the wax paper. Yes. Please start the timer. He's starting now.
Okay.
Starting that stopwatch. Okay, you're going to spread it out on here about the same, I mean, maybe a little bit bigger diameter than your cake. And I baked off 6-inch cakes. So that's what I have today for each method. You want it at least as big as your cake. I'm just kind of eyeballing that. It looks good enough to me. Let me grab my cake.
Would parchment paper work instead of wax paper, do you think?
I think so.
Okay.
Parchment. I like how easy the wax paper peels off, but I think that the parchment would work. So I have my cake. I baked these yesterday and I filled them today, and they've been in the fridge a couple of hours. So they're pretty solid. I would say at least an hour it should be sitting in the fridge. So what we're gonna do, I'm gonna put my gloves on for this because I have to touch the cake. So I was kind of thinking too about like pros and cons of each method. And I still use the upside down method when I do a semi-naked cake. So when you're doing that like really lightly iced cake on the outside, I use the upside down method. Everything else, I usually use my acrylic discs. So you're going to take your cake and grab it by the sides, turn it over, and set it right down in the middle of your buttercream. You do want it to be pretty level. And at this point, you can actually check it and have a level here. So you can check that bubble in the center and make sure that it's sitting flat. And if it's not, you just kind of press it down into your buttercream, because the buttercream right now is soft under there and you can kind of maneuver it. So, and I usually check it kind of 2 different directions. This way it's not sitting level. Well, this side.
I have a dumb question.
Yep.
You can only do this with like flat cakes, right? Not like like
Like
half sphere cakes.
no, I wouldn't do, like for a carved cake, I would just ice it right side up. And I actually love these. They're like acetate smoothers. I have a bunch, but like if you're doing like a curved cake or something, I use these to smooth it because you can shape it and curve it to the shape of your cake. These are awesome for weird shaped cakes. Like I've done like a stormtrooper helmet or something. Use this and do it upright. Yeah. But this would work for like square cakes, hexagon cakes, round cakes. Something that the reason why we're doing it upside down is to give it that really sharp edge, that sharp top corner. And so you're getting the sharp edge from your board down here at the bottom and the side of your cake. So that's what's going to give you that nice angle. So I'm happy with how level we are. From here, I kind of take my spatula and just push up a little bit of this buttercream. Like, we don't need that much. And then we're going to take, well, let me get rid of some of these crumbs. I do not want crumbs in my icing. And that's another thing, I don't ever crumb coat my cakes.
I think that would be dangerous for me because I usually have crumbs from the here to there.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I use a the goop. Have you heard of the cake goop from Sugar Geek?
Yeah.
For my white cakes, and so it releases really well. There's not a whole lot of crumbs on here that are coming off. And then also working with a really cold cake helps. And then even if you did have a really crummy cake, if you take a generous amount of buttercream on your spatula and apply it, it should, I mean, if you do it the right way, if you're not like pulling off your cake, just kind of going side to side, it shouldn't pull crumbs off. So the way I apply icing is just kind of rocking my spatula back and forth. And I'm always coming off kind of sweeping, not pulling it straight off, because that will pull crumbs. So I'm just putting on pretty generous amount all the way around. I'm covering the cake card that it's sitting on. So if you wanted to, you could trim down your cake a little bit. We'll see how this goes when I start scraping. Like I said, I usually do this method for my semi-naked cakes. And so when I'm doing a semi-naked cake, I'll always trim down my cake card to smaller than my cake. That way it's hidden.
Do you just use scissors to trim it? Okay.
I peel it off and I cut it down with scissors. And then I stick it back on there.
What kind of buttercream is that?
This is a Swiss meringue buttercream.
Okay.
The only
It looks
thing
real smooth.
It's the only thing I ever use.
Paz is still in that ABC wants to switch to
Yes.
Swiss meringue, but still holding on.
Yeah, I've been doing more Swiss meringue and people like it, but my daughter still, she says, I like the American buttercream. And I went, it's harder to work with.
Yeah, see, and I only do American buttercream. I tried Swiss a few times, but it didn't come out good. I didn't like the taste of it. And
Oh, it
I
tastes
make
so
so
good.
much at a time that I was
So
like, nope, I can't do this.
I'm gonna start scraping. I have an acrylic scraper. You don't have to use acrylic, you can use metal. The most important thing is that it has a 90-degree edge right here. You want that 90-degree angle, so you're really you're touching the side of your cake and the board. I know that there's some that, like I have a bench scraper I can show you real fast. This one is not as good, just because this kind of gets in my way. It doesn't sit flat. So even, I mean, this is not a great example because it kind of hangs off the board, but this can often get in my way and I don't get a nice 90-degree angle. So I prefer the ones that are
I
flat.
think you just blew my mind because I've only used the bench scraper. I mean,
Yeah.
mostly.
I don't know, it helps me to get more straight edges when I have a 90-degree to start with. So, all right, so I'm just gonna start smoothing this down. It's really important to do light pressure. You don't want to scrape off a whole bunch all at once because it starts dragging and pulling on your icing. One thing I will say that sometimes people have a hard time with this method with the wax paper or the parchment on the bottom. Sometimes their scraper gets like caught up on the wax paper. So I try not to like push really hard down or push really hard into my cake. I'm just doing really light pressure.
There was a question that says, do you notice a difference between the acrylic scraper versus a normal metal scraper? And I know you talked about the right angle part of it.
Right.
Is there anything else you notice that's good or bad?
I'd say a slight benefit to the metal ones is that they can be heated up. Like a lot of times people like to finish their cake, maybe like a last swipe of their cake with a warm spatula, and you can't really do that with the acrylic ones. But with the metal one, you can heat it up in warm water, you can heat it up with a blowtorch, and then run that around your cake for a really smooth finish at the end. So
This is Karen, and I came in late. I'm sorry. Olivia, is that how much of a recipe for frosting is that? Because I'll try to do like a recipe for frosting saying it's supposed to like frost 2 8-inch, layers. And
yeah,
I never have enough frosting. I make like 3 times as much frosting. How much is that how much, what's the recipe that you're using right now?
so today I go by pounds. I did 1.5 pounds of egg white, 3 pounds of sugar, and 2.5 pounds of butter. So my Swiss meringue that I do is a little bit less butter than a lot of other ones that you'll find online. Most of them are 1 part egg white, 2 parts sugar, 3 parts butter, which is a lot of butter. And I think that's why a lot of times people say they don't like the taste of Swiss meringue, because they made the really buttery one.
So you
But-
said 1.5 pounds of egg whites,
Yep.
3 pounds of sugar,
Yes.
and 2.5 pounds of butter.
Yes.
Okay.
So the ratio is like 1 to 2 to like 1.5.
And do you use any hang on, I'll think of the name. The white
Flavor?
powdery stuff.
Powdered
No.
sugar,
No.
cream of tartar.
Thank you. Yes. Do you use that?
Yes, I do. And I don't usually measure. I put in about, for this amount, I put in about a teaspoon of cream of tartar, and that goes into the egg white. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Again, I'm living in Colorado, and technically we're not supposed to make buttercream because it's supposed to be chilled, and we're not supposed to do that. So I have to use high ratio shortening. Is there anybody else out there that's been doing high ratio and gets good results?
So I'm actually in Colorado as well.
You are?
I leave this buttercream out for 2 days and it's fine. I use pasteurized egg whites though. I don't use real egg white. I use the carton pasteurized egg white. And you don't have to put this in the fridge. Like I said, you can leave it out for a couple of days and it's
I
fine.
thought the cottage food folks told us that we can't use, we can't use butter. The
Butter?
ladies like at CSU.
Oh, I haven't heard that. That would be crazy.
Yeah, well, like last year we could do cream cheese and we couldn't do buttercream.
Yeah.
Now we can do buttercream and we can't do cream cheese.
But because I heard that there was a cream cheese, there is an approved cream cheese recipe here in
No,
Colorado.
they took it away. They took it away.
Recently?
Yeah, this year.
Well, I don't use cream cheese anyway.
Yeah. But you're using butter in your buttercream and you're in Colorado, huh?
Yep. And maybe that's a no-no, but
I won't tell on
I
you.
said, this is not like I can leave it out for at least 2 days on my counter.
Okay.
And I'm not worried about it.
Where are you located, Olivia?
I'm north of Denver. I'm in Commerce City.
Okay, well, I'm in Johnstown, so I'm north of you.
Okay, yeah. I did a wedding this
I
year.
got New Dublin.
So basically, Karen, use butter and blame it on the Home Business Academy when you get caught, and I'll go to bat for you.
All right. This is pretty good. We could keep smoothing all day, right, guys? So sometimes I like to see, because again, using my 90-degree angle here to see how straight my sides are. It's a little, like right now, it's a little wider at the top than it is at the bottom. Because you could see as you go up, it kind of gets closer to my spatula right here. So I know I'm a little wider, my top right now, which will be the bottom. It's a little wider at the bottom. So, but for sake of time, I'm just gonna call it right now. This is good enough. If I wanted, like if this was for an order, I would keep going and try to scrape a little bit more off my top than the bottom. Okay, but we just took our time, slow scrapes all the way around as I went. If you want to, you could also try to do like one final pass without stopping. I usually put my spatula on the edge and reach across my turntable so that I can do one pass all the way around without stopping. That's good for any of these ways that you are icing. It just helps. Gonna get rid of any lines. Okay, so now that we were iced, I'm gonna go ahead and take my spatula, just scrape off the extra that's sticking up over our board. And I'm kind of starting out beyond the cake and bringing it across to pull that in. Okay, so this is upside down as far as we're gonna go with it right now. I'm just gonna pick up this whole thing and it's gonna go in the refrigerator.
Are we time's up on this one?
Yeah, let's stop the timer. I was talking a lot too, but.
Well, you might talk to the other one too.
That's true. Okay. All right, what are we looking at? How long was that?
15 minutes and 15 seconds.
15 minutes and
Bad.
15 seconds. All right, so I will say, I was gonna have him do that, like add to that time later, because we have to go back and fix the top. When we do the upside down, we're gonna have to flip it back over, work a little bit on the top. So that'll add a little bit more time onto that one. The next one we're gonna do is the acrylics, okay? And I will say, I'm biased. It's my favorite method. All right.
I do have the acrylics, but I haven't mastered them yet.
Okay, it does take a little practice, but I feel like every method is going to take a little practice. I was going to say one of the like I was looking at pros and cons of each method. One of the cons of the upside down that we just did is it's kind of difficult to do on large cakes. So like I wouldn't recommend doing it with a 12-inch round. It's so big and heavy, and to try to pick that up and flip it, it's difficult. I don't like doing it for big cakes. So just keep that in mind. All right, so I'm setting up with my acrylics right now. What I like to do, and I guess I don't have to, you could probably tape, what I do is tape down the bottom disc. You could probably tape it directly to your turntable. I don't usually do that. Don't ask me why. I started doing it like this, where I build it on another acrylic. You could also do it on a cake drum. And I have a wet paper towel down so that this doesn't slide, okay? Not yet. Yeah, maybe. You can start the timer. That's fine. Start the timer because I'm doing it. All right, I'm just gonna take a little bit of masking tape for the bottom disc. And I just do a loop of tape, stick it down to the middle, and then stick down my bottom disc. And it went fairly centered on this. So that's stuck down. I use discs that are a quarter inch wider than my cake. So these are 6.25 inch rounds. I ordered them from cakesafe.com. I got some other ones from a different provider when I first started with acrylics, and they had like ridges in the edge that left lumps in the side of my cake, and I hate them. I got rid of all of them. So I just use the Cake Safe ones now. They're super smooth. They give you a really nice finish. So I'm gonna unwrap this cake. Again, these are chilled. I filled them earlier this afternoon. So I'm just gonna set my cake directly on my disc, and you want it centered. So the nice thing too about these Cake Safe ones, it's really hard to see them on here. They are etched in the side. They have a rim on the inner, like an inner circle, and that kind of shows you where your cake should be sitting. And then they also have them etched in there, the actual size of the disc. You can see that says 6.25. So if you ever forget, or you're like me, I have a whole stack of them behind me. I have one set for every size of cake. So I have 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and 14, I think. And then I have some square ones, and I have a hexagon ones as well. All right. So I like that they're labeled, and you can kind of see where you're supposed to be sitting it by following that little etching on the inside of your disc. All right, so it's centered, it's on there. We're gonna start with our dollop of buttercream. I start with a generous amount on top. We're gonna spread it out. And again, this part, I mean, you want it fairly level, but again, we're gonna be able to use our level and make it level if it's not. So I want this pretty flat. Let your buttercream go down over the edges, that's fine. All right, so the most important thing, next step is I have it's a little bit smaller than my disc. It's a 6-inch parchment circle. This is parchment. I just cut it out. But you see how it fits inside of the disc? You want it to be smaller. If it's hanging past the disc, you're going to be scraping it as you're smoothing. So this goes on top of our buttercream. Okay, that's on there, and then the disc goes on top of that. So most of my students, the hardest thing that they encounter when using acrylics is this top disc sliding around while they're trying to smooth their cake. Another issue is getting this disc off. I know when I first started it, there's lots of different methods I've seen people use, like that sticky saran wrap. I don't know what it's called.
Like a press and seal.
Yeah, the press and seal.
Yeah.
they use that on here and it wraps up over the edge, but I feel like then you're having to make sure like you smooth it really nicely over your edges, or else you're gonna, when you're smoothing, you're gonna be running over your bumpy press and seal. So I'd rather not have anything on this edge. So I just started using a piece of parchment. And then in order to get this to stick on there, you want to take your buttercream and press it up to really make a seal between your buttercream and your disc. Okay, so we're going to do that all the way around, pressing up. So we really want that disc to be stuck on this cake for now. The parchment is on there to help it release later. Okay, so that's pretty stuck on there. We're going to check two things before we continue. One is, again, our level. So we want to make sure that it's flat on top. This is especially like if you're doing tiered cakes, you want to make sure that it looks pretty way. Okay. I think that's pretty good. And then the other thing we're going to check is we want to make sure that when you're using two discs, that our top disc and our bottom disc are aligned. Otherwise, you're going to get like a cake that looks like it's leaning once you're done icing. Okay, so I have a second acrylic scraper here, and all I'm going to do is kind of press on opposite sides to make sure that they are lined up. And when you do that, and I do it several different angles, you can kind of feel this disc moving. Your top disc will kind of slide and shift a little bit if it's not perfectly lined up. So just make sure you're hitting that bottom disc with your 90-degree angle on both sides and just align those all the way around. Okay. That looks pretty good. Now we're going to start icing. So same thing as before, just going to take kind of a generous amount and apply it to the sides. So I really like the discs because they give you a guide. It's really easy to get straight sides. It's not going to be slanting one way or the other. Smooth sides and this top edge. When I first started working at a bakery right out of pastry school, I iced cakes all day long. It was on Fridays. I would ice all her cakes on Fridays. And I just had to do it in a long time. So this next one should be interesting. All right, we're covered all the way around. Scraper again. Acrylic scrapers are beveled. You can see they have a beveled edge. So I always put that cut bevel facing away from me while I'm scraping. So when you first start, just cleaning off my board there a little bit. When you first start, you might not be hitting the disc right away. But again, this is one of those things like you want to scrape light pressure, because if you push really hard, you could shift discs or you could drag your frosting and it creates a lot of air bubbles.
And you said the beveled
You might-
side is on the outside, not touching the cake.
What was that?
The beveled side is not touching the cake. It's on the outside. Did I freeze? I think I might have frozen.
No, you don't look like you're frozen.
Oh, is Olivia frozen?
Okay.
Yes, she's going in and out. Yes.
Oh, okay. I thought it was me. Sorry.
Uh-oh.
I guess if anyone's doing
What's our time?
it, and
So just like with any other method, you're gonna have spots where you have to kind of go back in and fill. And then we're gonna keep smoothing. I'm wondering, do you want to switch? I'm wondering if it will help if we switch to the other camera. Is it really glitchy?
It just started. Um, for we could talk about it later, but you could see about your husband setting up your if this is through your laptop through your Ethernet versus Wi-Fi.
Oh,
Could
yes.
help.
We did that last time.
I have some
Yeah.
discs and I need to take them out and try them again. I gave up. It was hard. I couldn't do it. So I just gave up, but I do
Yeah,
have,
it
I
just-
don't think it's the good set, but at least it's something to try at least, you know, to.
Yeah, I don't think I have the good set either, is kind of what I'm thinking, because I don't remember ordering them from Big Stick.
As long as they are smooth, it should give you a nice smooth finish. So I'm starting to get down the disc, so you can see it. You can see the disc here, and you can see the disc on the bottom. And I want to be able to see it all the way around. Still a little thick, like seeing the disc. I just keep looking. My one camera looks really good, and then the other one's really glitchy.
I think they're both glitchy, but let me switch it to the other one and see if you can point it down.
Okay.
Let me see, replace spotlight. Okay, now can you move the camera down? This one's glitchy
Can
too.
you-
I don't
can you
think it's gonna
slide that
matter.
down? Okay.
I think this one's
Later.
glitchy too.
Okay, we're getting down to the disc all the way around. And I'm using really light pressure. Okay. I'm gonna just scrape off this extra buttercream. Is it streaming any better?
A little better.
Yeah, I think it's more than fine. We're definitely getting it.
Yes.
Okay.
And I'm doing a cake tomorrow, so I can't wait to try this.
You may, if you want to, turn off your other camera just to see if it helps at all.
Yeah, I'm wondering, does it matter? Because we're joined on both, because I only have audio connected to the other one.
Okay, turn this one off and switch back to the other one.
Okay,
See if it'll help. I don't know.
okay, just like leave the meeting on that one.
Yeah, try that. And one of your kids is streaming a movie.
They might be. Okay. Now we're back to here.
Yeah, and if this is a much better picture too.
Okay. All right, so the next thing we're gonna do, I have a small knife. This is not serrated. It's a very flat blade. It's just a paring knife, but it's important that it's flat, so it's not gonna leave any marks on your cake. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna go ahead and pop this top disc off right now. It hasn't been chilled. This way I can keep using my discs for icing cakes one after the other. You don't need multiple sets of the same size. So I usually like to go in at the back seam where I came off. Doesn't really matter, but I go in with my knife right at the back. I'm going to go just underneath that top disc, and I'm kind of pressing up with my knife, and I'm just going to run it around the whole way. We are going to break that seal of buttercream that we made. And then remember, right inside of that buttercream is our piece of parchment. So the disc, once you break that buttercream seal all the way around, your disc should pop off pretty easily. So I'm pressing up pretty good. Okay, my disc just came unsealed. And now I'm just gonna take it and kind of slide it over enough so I can grab it. I'm gonna pull it off, okay? It kind of messed up right there a little bit while I was popping it off. Doesn't always happen, but that is definitely something that we can fix after it's chilled, okay? So the parchment's still on there. We're gonna leave it. I'm going to take it off the bottom disc now. What I need, you need a landing place, somewhere to move your cake onto. So we're gonna take it off that bottom disc and put it on this is just another cake drum, an extra drum that I have here. Might slide over a little bit so you can see. This part's always a little bit tricky for students, I guess, when you're moving cakes around, especially one that's freshly iced. You don't want to mess up your beautiful work that you just did smoothing. So the way I do it is I slide in my spatula. We're going to go in right at the top of that bottom disc, and we're going to shimmy this under. We want it to get underneath that piece of cardboard that our cake is sitting on. So just slide it in there and slide your spatula around. So if your cake starts sliding off like that, like it's sliding off the disc right now, you can come out and go in from this side. Like if it's sliding too far and you're like, oh, I'm gonna lose it, just pull your spatula back out and go in at the side where it's sliding off. And I kind of swing my spatula around. So you want to try to get under there so that you can lift it, okay? So what I usually do is lift with the spatula to get my hand under one side, and then swing my spatula around to pick up from the other side.
Olivia, do you ever use a cake lifter?
Nope. This is what I do. And then I drop it from the spatula side and then bring the spatula over to relieve my hand and then drop down the spatula side.
That was absolutely terrifying. Just watching that. There's no way I would
Right?
ever do that.
It's not though.
Yes, I was on the edge. I was going, oh no.
I do it all the time. It's fine. I was just trying to show you guys, like, yeah, you can stop it.
It's beautiful.
You guys that I mean, you can pick it up and move it and off these discs, because I think that's the hardest part for people is once you ice it with the discs, is getting the discs off once again. So, you know, with that one, it was just sitting on here, and you can slide your spatula right under there and get it off.
Be like, excuse me, Susan, can I have my disc back when you're done cutting your cake?
Right? No. So this is going to go in the fridge. Again, we just like the upside down one, we're going to go back and touch up the top a little bit after it's chilled.
What was our time on that?
What was your time?
17 minutes.
Oh my gosh.
And 40 seconds.
17 minutes and 40 seconds, he said.
We did have some technical issues, so we might be able to shave off a second or two.
I feel like when I do these if I'm icing like a 4-tiered wedding cake and I'm just doing it, I can do it in 10 minutes each tier.
Yeah. Well, and let's not forget, part of our voting is the perfection part. And we know that the upside down was not perfect.
That's true. It was a little bit wide at our base.
Mhm,
And
it
this one I
was.
know is going to be straight. Like got straight sides and nice sharp edges here.
So that might be worth 2 minutes.
Yeah, I think it is. I don't have to guess about if it's
Right.
right. Like it's I know it's straight. All right. Let's do our last one.
Standard method.
What?
Standard
Oh,
method.
yes. We're calling this standard method. So, my discs over here. Get that off. Once I get this off.
So that looks like it has fruit. What's the flavor?
Oh, I put a little bit of raspberry reduction on this one. This one has a passion fruit buttercream with raspberry reduction. The passion fruit is, where is it? It's these guys, the Amaretti artisan flavors. I love these. Most of them anyway. Some of them I tried are not that great, but these are natural flavors and I just pour it right into my buttercream. This
Do they
is
have
vanilla.
a salted caramel one?
They do, and I don't like that one. That's like one
Oh.
of that's the few that I don't love. I mean,
Okay.
you're better off just making caramel and putting that in your buttercream.
Got it.
I
But-
totally agree. I also don't like anything that they do that has meringue on it. So like the lemon meringue ones or whatever
I
meringue.
haven't
for
tried
some
any of
reason,
those.
They're
Mm.
all like super acidic on the back end and not in a good way, like in a battery acid kind of way.
That's
But I
nice.
do love a lot of their flavors.
Yeah, I have the POG passion fruit orange guava is really good, and the orange cream. I've got
The
quite a
blueberry
few,
one is really good too.
which one?
The blueberry one,
Blueberry. Okay, I
I-
have boysenberry. I haven't tried blueberry.
I use them a lot for when I make marshmallows.
Oh, okay, to flavor marshmallows.
Yeah, and the blueberry one is by far my favorite, but I've noticed like anything that they do that has like meringue in it is just the weirdest taste on the back end. I don't know why. So I always tell people they're kind of hit or miss for me.
Yeah, they kind of are. Like I probably wouldn't buy that raspberry one again. Okay, you can go ahead and start. So for this one, I kind of like to use my board as a guide. And so I'm gonna trim my cake just a little bit. Again, when I worked at the bakery, we'd always do this. We'd trim them down. Just so you have a little bit more space for your icing between your cake and your board. You don't have to, but I like having my board on the bottom as a little bit of a guide, so I can make sure my cake is straight and has an even amount of icing all the way around. I'm not trimming off a whole lot.
So
But I
this is
don't-
basically giving you that 1/4 on each side.
Right?
Okay.
Yeah. And you could do it this way too, and just use a disc on the bottom. If you just want to do one acrylic disc, you can not trim it down, but put your disc or put your cake on a single disc and ice it. Some people do that because it acts as a nice guide for you, but it still doesn't give you a sharp top edge. Disc off. So my solution was a little circle of parchment. My son is super excited about these cake scraps. Okay. Here, where's your bowl? Put these there.
My husband calls them the spoils of war.
That's funny. All right, I'm just gonna clean off my surface now a little bit. Again, we do not want crumbs. And I'm not crumb coating. All right. Put this puppy back over here. Okay, we're gonna start the same way we did the other ones. Big dollop on top. That's a lot. And I'm gonna take off a little bit. That's a little too much. Okay. I'm just gonna spread it So it starts kind of going over our edges again. This one, kind of the way you leave your top is kind of the way it's going to be. So you do want it to be pretty finished looking at this point, once you start moving to the sides. I mean, we are going to smooth the top a little bit at the end, but and then I also don't check my level with this method. I mean, you don't really want to like set your level on fresh buttercream, so I don't usually check it. It's kind of like you got to eyeball it and hope for the best. I don't know. I just
What about putting, I mean, obviously I'm gonna do what you say, but just I thought, what about putting a parchment paper over it and then leveling it? Would that work or even matter?
you could. But then you'd still have to go back and mess with the top again later, like we're gonna do. And when I mean, if you did that now, once we do the sides, we're gonna have to smooth it across the top. I don't know, I feel like that parchment would get in your
Yeah.
way.
So totally useless.
Oh, I was gonna say, you guys asked me how much buttercream I made. And the quantities I use, I only use that amount because I know that that's the max capacity of my 6-quart bowl. If I did any more than that, it would overflow. So that's the reason why I chose those specific quantities. All right, we're gonna do the same thing, side to side, pretty generous with our icing. And now, because I shaved it, I have even higher potential of getting crumbs in there. But so if you just use a really generous amount on your spatula, my spatula is never coming in contact with the crumbs. The way that I pull it off and the way that I'm smoothing it on, it makes it so, I don't know if a better angle would be, makes it so I'm not touching crumbs ever. So there's no chance of crumbs getting in my outer frosting. Whoop, we had too much on there that time. You can see my board right down here on the bottom, which is what we're going to be scraping down to. You started the timer, right, Jack? So make sure. Hmm?
And
Oh, yeah. That's true. I probably have enough icing left in here to do another 6-inch cake. Okay. And I know some people like to use a piping bag to apply icing, which is fine if you prefer that way. I know it gives you a nice even coat. If I don't have to fill an icing bag and wash an icing tip, and I prefer not to. All right, so I'm going to start. I don't know if there's a better angle. Start smoothing our cake here. I can tell I'm very wide at the top already. And as you go around, it's going to push the icing up. And I know that's kind of a look that people want these days. If you wanted to have that pushed up look over the edge, I would have to ice it the standard way. And I just kind of let the buttercream do what it wants as I'm smoothing it. And then I just don't smooth the top. I don't fix that edge if they want that like rustic look. I feel like I have a lot on here. It's very, I'm in my basement. This is the kitchen I have in my basement, and it gets really cold down here, especially this week. It's been snowing.
Oh, wow.
I know.
So does that make your buttercream act differently?
Yeah, so it just solidifies much quicker. And I have to make sure that when I start, it's pretty warm to start with. When I first built this kitchen down here and I started icing cakes, it was definitely like a learning curve. I had to relearn how I handled my buttercream and definitely like start warmer. So I can tell right here, maybe I can show you from the top a little bit. Like if I go to smooth this across, I don't have enough buttercream on here to make a nice edge. So I'm gonna add more into this area. Can you, maybe from this angle, you can kind of tell, like it's not high enough right here to just smooth it across and make a nice corner. So I'm gonna add a little bit more spot, just so I can try to get that same sharp edge that we really want. Makes for a more professional looking cake. Maybe a little bit more right here. Okay. Let's scoot this back a little bit. So you can keep scraping all the way down till you see your cake board. I'm going to leave it a little bit wider than that because I don't really want to see that cardboard under there. I feel like, again, it's more professional looking if you keep that cardboard under there hidden. So right here, it's showing a little bit. I don't know if you can see that on the camera, but it is peeking.
Yeah, I can see it a little bit.
Okay. I mean, and you can always add like a border around your cake, but a lot of more modern cakes, especially wedding cakes, don't really have those borders anymore. So I try to keep that board hidden as much as I can. And again, that's why I like the acrylic disc, because it automatically gives you that 1/4 inch buffer, or I guess it's 1/8 of an inch all the way around for your cake. But this is looking okay, pretty good. Trying to get a little bit more off the top. Like I feel like it is a little bit wider. And again, we can check with our 90-degree angle here. It's okay right there. It's a little wider right there. I know all these like little tiny things, it doesn't seem like a whole lot, but when you have straight edges, smooth buttercream, sharp top edge, like all those things combined are going to give you a more professional looking cake. And it's all in those little details, and they add up to come together to make a really nice looking cake. I'm trying to scrape at the top and not the bottom, and I feel like I'm getting a lot of middle. So, smoothing by hand like this, you have to have a steady hand. You can kind of see some inconsistencies as you go around, these lines. That's just human error right there. And I'm going to smooth that out again. With the discs, you don't have that error because you have the discs to guide you. And it just takes a lot of practice doing it this way and a really steady hand. I feel like it's getting lumpier. What do you think, Jack?
I don't know.
It's smooth.
Yeah.
Looks beautiful from here.
I know. The camera doesn't show all the imperfections. All right, and I know that there's like an air bubble right here. Again, that's something that we can go back and fix once it's chilled. Sometimes I get it to a certain point and I'm like, that's good enough. And you can patch up stuff like that after it's chilled, especially if you don't want to keep, or if you have it good enough and you don't want to risk messing up your smooth work. All right. I mean, we could keep like fiddling and fussing with it. There's a little bit of an imperfection here, but the rest of it looks pretty good. Okay. So after you have to this point, you're going to go ahead and smooth the top. And we're going to do kind of the same thing we did with our upside down cake. I'm going to start kind of outside the cake and swipe across. Make sure your spatula is clean or else you're going to be dragging buttercream that's on here onto your cake. So you just, I kind of try to find like a low spot, but it doesn't really matter. We're going to just drag it across the top of our cake here. Kind of cutting that buttercream off and smoothing it as we go. We're just going to do that all the way around. How many of you ice your cake like this way? This is kind of standard, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I do.
Yeah.
Me too.
Also do.
Okay.
You make it look a lot easier than it actually is, though.
Yep.
Mhm.
When I do a cake like that, I struggle. Like it's not like, oh, swipe, 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 turn, turn, turn. It's a lot of cussing and yelling and heated
And what about-
water and
Oh, there went the frosting. Well, now I need to go find it.
I mean, it might be your buttercream. I don't know.
back and
All
forth
right,
in
so
the
I'm gonna call
freezer, praying, trying to get it to cooperate. And the sides I can do. The sides always come out super smooth for me and beautiful. It's the top. The top I never have any luck with.
Do
I
you
feel like
have you
the-
tried chilling it then? Like stop now, put it in the refrigerator, and then go back to smooth the top later.
Yes, that's what I've had to do. I mean, like I don't do cakes anymore, but when I did do
Okay.
them, that's what I've always ended up doing is like getting it close. And by close, I don't mean like this. Mine was not close like this. Mine is a lumpy, bumpy mess, but getting it as close as I can, then throwing it in the freezer and then taking like a really sharp, thin knife and just sort of slicing away the bad parts.
Yeah, and you could do that too. Like I just swiped and smoothed that top. You could have stopped and chilled it and then come back and just cut like with your sharp knife and just cut off the buttercream that's sticking up.
Yep, that's what I've always done. And that's what worked best for me, just because I can't ever get it to look like this. I don't know why. I think
I mean,
it's something about, the way that, you flick your wrist or tilt your head or pray to the cake gods or whatever it is.
I'm going to show you, like, I still have imperfections.
Oh, get out of here.
Oh
I
my gosh,
know,
can you
that's
see?
pretty
Can you see?
perfect.
And it's not quite as sharp. Okay, so Jack, what was our time on this one? We're gonna
16 minutes and 14 seconds.
16 minutes and 14 seconds. And I am not personally as happy with this. Like I would have kept going and smoothing if we weren't in class. All right, so I'm gonna take this again, we're gonna move it on to our board and we're gonna stick it in the fridge. So I guess one of the bonuses of this method is I don't really have to mess with this again. Like I could, there's a little air bubble right here. I could go back and smooth that out and touch it again after chilled. But if you wanted to, you could be done at this point and not touch it again and just start decorating. So I guess it's kind of, for me, like a one-stop way to do it. If, you know, if you're cranking them out and doing a whole bunch, I don't know, maybe it's faster for you. So I'm just gonna slide my spatula under there like we did before, picking it up, moving it onto my board. Get this out of there. Okay, now let's go back to upside down. Okay, we're just gonna fix the top of that one a little bit.
There's still time.
We are going to add time to the upside down. I feel like it's really hard to see and compare the three methods on camera because I can look at them here in person and I can see that they look different and I can see the imperfections a little bit more, I feel like, than maybe you can on camera. Okay, hold on. I need to get a board. You just want to make sure there's not like extra icing sticking up on that because you want your cardboard to sit level. Let me grab another board. Hold on. Yep. Okay, go ahead and start the timer for this one again. So I will say when I do the upside down, usually when I'm flipping it back over, I will put it on its presentation board. So however you want to decorate your board, sometimes it'll be fancy fondant. Sometimes I've heard a lot of people do like contact paper. I always cover my boards in a thin layer of fondant. So I'll do that like a day or two in advance, let it dry. And I'll usually put a little bit of a chocolate ganache on here and then stick it on top of my cake. And you can, at this point, like center it on there, make sure it's where you want, and put it, when you flip it back over, it's on your presentation board already. So that way you don't have to flip it or move it again. So what we're doing here, sandwiching my cake between two boards. You're gonna put one hand on bottom and one hand on top and press pretty firmly, and we're gonna flip it back over, okay? So you can see why doing this with a large cake is difficult. That flipping back over is a little bit risky. Pour it off, and you're gonna peel back your wax paper or your parchment. Just start with one side and just peel it. Sometimes I kind of go from the other side to kind of get that off.
Wow.
So I'm gonna try to
that's
show
perfect.
you what the top looks like. There's a little bit of air bubbles in the top. No. I just wish that, can you see that?
Yeah, very little.
Can you, there's some air bubbles in there. So I'm just gonna go back in with a little bit of buttercream. We're gonna touch that up. But for the most part, I mean, we have a really nice sharp edge here. And like I said, I do use this method for my semi-naked cakes. And then you just put less icing on.
And you don't put icing between the board and the cake?
I usually put like ganache, some chocolate
Okay.
ganache.
Oh, that's what you said earlier. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
because I feel like that stays pretty firm at room temperature. It kind of glues it down a little better than just buttercream.
Okay. Okay.
And you can keep some chocolate ganache like in your freezer just for that. And I usually warm a little bit up because you don't need a whole lot. I'll usually put it on the board. I'll show you with on this one. I'll put it on the board in 3 spots. It's kind of like across. so that it is stuck down in several areas, not just like
Okay.
one spot in the middle. But I really want it glued down, so I'll put ganache, 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 and then stick my cake to that. So,
Okay, thank you.
yeah. Now, I've had, in the beginning, I had some issues with cakes shifting when I used just buttercream to glue them. And now with ganache, I haven't had any issues. All right, so I actually, I'm switching tools. I prefer when I do my tops to use a smaller spatula. This one, I believe I got it from Evil Cake Genius for the stenciling, but it's angled and it's little. I just feel like I have a little bit more control when I'm doing smaller details. So I'm just gonna go in and I'm covering the entire top with just a really thin layer of buttercream, filling in all those air bubbles. Are you still timing? See, I don't feel like this is a fair representation of each method because we're talking a lot, but
Mhm.
It's really not, but it is super fun. It's super fun.
I'm gonna have to redo it, not talking, and see if I can whip through them and time myself.
No,
Yeah, I'm really curious.
no, me time.
All right, so I just spread that. And now that our buttercream is cold, it also will start kind of solidifying faster. And it's actually a little bit easier to smooth. Have a little piece of butter right there. All right. And then we have this hanging over the edge now. So you can do two things, actually three. You could use your finger if you wanted to smooth it. You could use a knife, a spatula, but what I like to use is my little acrylic, or these acetate sheets again that we talked about. So I usually turn it, this side has a really sharp corner that can like drag on the cake. So I usually use the rounded corner. So it's kind of not going to drag against my cake. So I'm just going to take this very, very gently because this is firm buttercream and this is not yet. So it should just wipe it off really easily. And I just kind of take it off in little chunks and make sure that my scraper is clean each time. Now, there's so many ways to do this, but I like this method because it keeps your sharp edge and it doesn't mess up the sides because it's really soft. Okay. And then we're just gonna go back in and just take this little excess off that's pushed up over the edge again. This will be our final swipe. And this is again, my favorite tool for doing this because it's little. No, yeah. So we're just, and again, I like to make sure my spatula is clean every time I do for this last part, especially. We're gonna be taking off that little extra lip up there. So we're basically going to do the same thing with our acrylic cake. All right, there we go. That's, yeah, time. And that's our upside down. Done. I'm gonna show you the top now. I'll see if I can, gosh, this is hard to think. There's like a little piece of butter right there, but the air bubbles are gone. I don't know.
It's beautiful.
Yes, it is.
I don't know. Like I
Oh.
can see some imperfections? Like as I'm turning it, can you see like a little bit of lumpies?
Yeah, I can see that. And what causes that?
That's just from my scraper. Like when I was
Okay.
holding it and turning, it's just like human error when you're holding this and scraping, like it's that movement of like going like this, just ever so slightly as you're scraping. And so because there's nothing to like, we didn't have a guide or anything. I mean, you could keep smoothing that and try to get rid of that, but those lines are just from me from doing it by hand. All right, let's look at our I'm gonna set this one over here. Hopefully we don't get them mixed up, huh? And then we can look at all three side by side after we do we're gonna do the top of the acrylic one. So this one still has that little piece of parchment on the top. So I usually, if it's not peeling up, you could use a knife and kind of get it and peel that off. I'm going to try to show you the top of this one, how it looks. So you can see from our disc, there's some marks. It's not super flat. So I'm going to do the same thing. Oh, go ahead. We did with the other one with just a little bit of icing or buttercream. And we're going to cover the entire top. Very thin layer. Are you in camera?
No.
Okay. And this one, we do have a little bit, like there was a nick here from when we pulled that disc off. And there was one spot that wasn't quite perfect. It was on this side. So now's our chance to kind of tidy that up a little bit. So I usually kind of start towards the center and smooth out to the outside, especially if I'm using this tiny one, my tiny spatula. And I love how easy this smooths on here once your buttercream is chilled.
I hope mine looks good like that tomorrow.
Are you going to try acrylic discs?
Yes, I'm gonna try.
Yes.
Like I said, I
most of
tried
my
it
students,
before.
okay, their biggest issues is just getting that top disc to stay. And I feel like if your buttercream is soft enough, you don't have to press that hard when you're smoothing.
Okay.
So light pressure and just scrape it off slowly. I also don't think that you need to pile on a ton of buttercream on the side either. It's okay, because I mean, if you're smoothing and you have some gaps, you can go and like patch those in. I think it's better to like put on a little less and add to it than have to scrape off a ton of buttercream.
Podge, you'll have to post a picture for all of us.
I'm gonna try now.
I agree. I agree.
All right, and then I'm gonna take, where's that other clear thing? The only bad thing about these acetate smoothers is they get lost on my counter all the time. I can't find them. I can't see them.
Where did you get those from?
These ones are from Innovative Sugar Works.
Okay.
And I actually just got another set, this other set, because they come with, I'll have to think of the name. They come with this like triangle one, which I thought was cool because you could use it to like do a quilting effect, do like marks in your buttercream. But the Innovative Sugar Works ones, they actually had print on there and it rubbed off over time. And now they sell them without the print because if I use these sometimes to smooth out my fondant, this text was actually rubbing off that color onto my fondant, which was no good. So they actually sell them now with no print on there, which I like better. Sorry, I'm going. I know he's still timing me. Okay.
Gotta get on it.
No, too much talking. I don't know. I kind of go between using a knife and using this acetate smoother to get off this extra buttercream. It kind of depends on what mood I'm in. If I have time, I guess. So you could, instead of smoothing it right away, we could have just popped that back in the fridge, let that buttercream that was sticking out of the edges harden, and then bring it back out and cut it off with a knife. And I would usually just go from the top like this and go around. But I don't want to take the time to do that today. So I'm using my acetate smoother. Am I running out of time? All right, we're gonna go our last pass here with our little guy. Take off these parts on top that are sticking up. And they're already starting to firm up a little bit. So it is really like cutting it off. Comes off really clean. As long as your spatula is clean. All right, time on that one.
I don't know, I was really close to the.
That was really close to upside down. That's right. Add them together so we can get our totals. All right, I'm gonna get all the cakes out. We can look at them side by side. I'm gonna move this. Oh boy. I'm gonna take it off my turntable. Should we put them in the order that we did them in? All right. See if we can get a wide enough angle. Like that.
That was 5 seconds less than the upside down.
5 seconds less.
What about standard? Is
Nice.
standard done? Is standard just done?
Yeah.
Okay,
that
so
was
that one
faster.
took the shortest.
Hold on, I'm gonna move this a little bit.
They are all perfect.
No, no, it's fine. I'll go a little bit closer to each one. Let's see.
Let's call them A, B, and C.
So hold on,
Yay.
I'm gonna take my gloves off real fast. We'll make a little note.
Hold
I'll do it with my Sharpie.
on. Okay.
All right, this was the upside down. This is not a good pen. A, can you see that?
Yes.
Is that backwards to you guys? It is. But they're in the order that we did them. Wait, yes. So.
Okay, so
I know,
upside down
backwards.
was A,
So this is upside down was the first one we did.
then
Acrylic
acrylic,
discs.
B, and then regular.
Third, C. This was standard. Yep.
Here's the time.
I'm gonna go a little bit closer so you can see them before you vote.
The time.
Oh yes, let's look at the times. Did you add them up?
Yeah, the new one.
So upside down, he said it was 22 minutes. That was with talking, guys.
Uh-huh.
22 minutes, 37 seconds. Acrylics were 22 minutes, 32 seconds. And this one was 16 minutes, 14 seconds. So I also didn't tidy up the top of that one. You guys want to have a closer look? Here, we'll look at each one.
I made a poll so you can vote.
Yes. This is,
Mom, which one do you vote for?
this is A. Upside down looks pretty good. I like how sharp the edge is. This is acrylic. Oh, sorry, here's the edge, here's the top. Acrylic.
You want acrylic?
No, and then this is standard. I didn't tidy up the top on that one, so maybe that's where we lost some time.
Hmm.
I mean, I like in person, I can see a difference. I know it's probably hard to see it on the camera. But
It
there we go.
is for sure.
Which one do you vote for, Mom?
I vote for acrylic because to me it looks the best. Like the acrylic one doesn't have any of the lumpy bumps on the sides. You know how you can kind of see maybe on this one over here. You can kind of see how it has the ridges. I'm sure this one does too. So right there, I can see them. I wonder if I turn
All
on.
right. I'm gonna end the
Down.
poll. Does anybody else want to vote? Ending the poll in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I hope it tells us the answers. Share results.
Oh, it better. That would be sad.
Did it share the results?
It
We
did,
Yes.
but I think I would
Yeah.
change my vote to the acrylic discs.
Okay, you're allowed
Bye.
to.
I'm
Acrylic
like,
disc
it's
wins.
it's definitely cleaner and sharper, especially like me looking at them here in person. This is the most clean, sharp looking one. I know, and this is a close second. I mean, this is fine, but like for me, I'm doing weddings. I want my cakes to be as perfect as they can. I will make another plug for acrylic discs. They are really good for covering your cakes in ganache. If you ever want to ice in ganache, it's so easy to work with to cover your cakes in ganache with discs. You do the same exact thing I did with buttercream, but use ganache instead. Make sure it's pretty soft. And I say that, I wish I could show you all a picture. Let me pull out my shape. Hold on. So I did a 4-tiered wedding cake this year. Her bottom tier was a hexagon. And I did real cake. I baked it as a circle. I used these discs to cut it down to a hexagon shape. So these are my guide. And then used my discs to ice a perfect hexagon cake, which
Wow.
I would not have been able to do that by hand. I mean, not nicely anyway.
Mhm.
So it works really well for hexagon shapes and I think they have heart ones too. And squares, you guys. I have a few square sizes, but to get a perfect like square cube cake, I use the discs. It would take me so much longer to get a nice square cake. Stop it. Doing it by like the standard method, getting those perfect square corners is really hard. So having these guides is so much nicer. So anyway, that's my plug.
Yay! That was so much fun.
I'm glad we could do this. I've been wanting to do this for a while where we like ice 3 and compare them, see how long it took. But with the
I'm not sure we got an accurate count, but
I know with the talking, I might do it again on my own, guys, and I'll have to share to the group. Like,
yeah, you could record it uninterrupted.
Yeah.
It would have taken me an hour and it still would not look that good.
I'd still be making the buttercream.
I feel like I definitely learned. So like I'm making a smash cake tomorrow. I'm just gonna do it the old fashioned way. But I feel like I learned some tips. I can turn my camera on. I feel like I learned some tips watching you do it that were extremely helpful for like when I'm just going to get like a smash cake, and I don't really need it to be like absolutely pristine.
No.
I have to say, this is the most detailed I have seen a cake be frosted, leveled. I mean, YouTube is filled with plenty, but no one goes step by step in showing you how and why. So I truly appreciated the information you gave was perfect.
Good.
Thank
I want to show you one more thing.
Kelly.
See if I can get this down here. My acrylic discs, how I organize them in my cupboard. Yes, you can leave. Hold on, guys. Don't look at my kids' messy stuff over there. All right, see if you can see this down here. I might turn up my light. Hold on, it's a little dark. See if you can see it down here. I bought these, they're like for paper from an office supply store.
Yes.
And I keep all my discs kind of stacked in here. So I've got them all kind of sorted by size. But this is all the discs I have and they fit right under my cupboard here. But so I know a lot of people are kind of turned off by buying another product, but honestly, you know, to store them, it doesn't take that much space and you only need one size of each or one set of each size. And it, you know, it's worth it to me. So
What's
and they're not terribly expensive either, which
they're
is
not too bad.
always nice when something's not crazy expensive.
what's the best size for the square cake? Like the most popular one, I guess.
I mean, I think I only have an 8-inch square. It's same 8.25. Let's see if it's on here. Yeah, they're 8.25. So same 1/4 inch bigger than the cake. And then I think I have a big one. I also have some 6s. So I do like a 6/8, like 2-tier, 6-inch, 8-inch 2-tier square. And then I do have these massive ones. I don't even know what sizes are. These are 12. 12.2.
What about sheet cakes? Is there any tips for sheet cakes when they're that, you know, rectangle or square, whatever? Or...
You know, they might even sell rectangle ones. I don't do sheet cakes, so I didn't buy them. But
okay.
I think if you look on their website, they might even have some rectangle ones.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. I do kitchen cakes is what I call them. They're like, you know, cutting cakes for the back. And I just make them like a big 8-inch square cake. So I don't use the discs for those because I just ice the top, but I make them the same height as my wedding cakes. So they're 4 layers of cake, 3 layers of filling. So it's just a big cube of cake that they cut in the back for extra servings. And that way they're the same height as a wedding cake. And people,
They don't know.
guests won't know. Yeah. There's that they don't feel like, oh, I got the sheet cake. I don't know. There's like a stigmatism around it, I feel like.
Right.
That's
So,
brilliant.
yeah, I just do them the same height as but a big square.
Olivia,
Yep.
you are amazing. Does anybody have any questions? Any follow-ups? Olivia, you're in the Facebook group if anybody has any questions, right? Okay, so you can always throw them in there. Karen, Karen, you got any questions?
Well, what I was going to ask her about was last time we saw her, she was leaving for the Caribbean right before Ian hit. So how was your vacation? Were you guys okay?
Yeah, so it rained probably only 2 days on our trip, and we actually ended our trip a day early because we were flying home to Orlando. And we were supposed to fly home that Wednesday, and that was when the hurricane hit. And so we made a last-minute decision, got the last 2 seats on a flight back into Orlando the day before we were supposed to come home, and barely snuck back in there before the storm hit Florida. So that was crazy. But yeah, we made the right decision. It was so hard though. Like the sun was finally out. We had our last full day at the resort, and we gotta leave. So it was disappointing, but
Yeah.
it was the right decision.
Have to make that one day up.
I know. It just felt like the whole trip was so much shorter than it it should have been. It made it feel like a whirlwind of a week because of just that one day shorter. I don't know. I was like, I feel gypped.
Can you,
But have to go do another beach trip.
right,
I don't know.
can can you either do a video or maybe we can arrange another class to show us how you did do like a hexagon cake? Because there aren't hexagon pans. And how do
Right.
how do you trim it down so that it was going to fit your acrylic forms?
Yeah, that's a good idea. We can do that, like a shaped cake. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think I'd like to see that, as well as the procedure of making ganache that is sufficient for a cake. Because when I make ganache, it's to drip.
Right.
I haven't made or used a ganache that is
To cover a
for
cake.
yeah. So that would be
Yeah.
something really fun to learn too.
If I'm covering a cake in fondant, I will always ice it in ganache. So I do white, depending on the flavor of the cake. I'll do white ganache or like a dark chocolate or a milk chocolate, just depending on the flavor of cake. But I always use ganache as a base before my fondant. And so, yeah, I'm using the discs, and it's just the ratio is different for the drip than icing. But yeah. All right, then write these ideas down so we can.
We have look at your website. I want to see all of your cakes.
Oh yeah, I haven't updated it since last
Or
year, but
whatever.
it's
Your Facebook or whatever.
yeah, it's oliviarosecakeart.com.
Okay.
Love it.
Hexagon cake. And what was the other one? Oh, ganache.
Ganache.
Ganache cake. Okay.
Cool. All right. Any other final thoughts? No? Thank you.
Much.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, it was brilliant. Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Welcome.
Yes. I love you all. I will see you all soon. I don't know when the next class is off the top of my head, but have a wonderful, wonderful day. Thank you so much, Olivia. Bye, everybody.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Bye.
Yep.
Bye.
Bye, you guys.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy
Oh, you
Thanksgiving.
too.
Bye.
Bye-bye.